All right, I apologize for the technical difficulties just a second ago, but I figured it out. It was a simple problem, one that I should have figured out before I went on the air, but to err is human, right? All right, so as I told you in the opener, I have been warning you all about the GOP. I have been trying my best to tell you that the GOP is thoroughly anti-black. The GOP is not for black people. So, what are we going to do about it? Because the foolishness coming out of Florida is untenable. It is just not something that we need to deal with. I'm telling you. So, I'm going to show you in this video why Ron DeSantis is really Ron Desatanic. Stick with me. All right, thank you for staying with me. And again, I apologize. What was actually going on was my browser is on here, and there was a YouTube video playing in the background, and I'm like, what in the world is this? You know, I don't think you all could hear it, but it was coming through my headphones, and everything that I was seeing was coming through, so I had to get rid of that. Anyway, thank you for sticking in there. And once again, Ron DeSantis is absolutely Ron Desatanic. That guy has problems. That dude has some racist problems going on in his heart. No question about it. He's doing everything he can to try to out-racist everybody who's running for the GOP. And you know what? As a sitting governor of one of the largest states in the country, wow, he's doing a pretty good job at saying, hey, everybody, I am the most racist of everybody in the pick right now, right? And that's saying a lot when you got people like Donald Trump running against him. But look, this guy is really, really disgusting. And I'm just going to be really honest about my feelings about him tonight. I'm just going to call it like I see it. This guy is disgusting. Ron Desatanic is a disgusting human being. Okay? Let me just say it like it is. He is a disgusting human being. Flat out, period. He is a disgusting person. His heart is full of hatred. I mean, you shall know them by their fruit. And we see what this guy's doing. Now, what got me so fired up? Well, there have been a lot of things that Ron DeSantis has done that have fired me up. But this latest thing takes the cake. This is cruel. This hit me in my gut. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that Ron DeSantis got through the Florida legislature, the so-called anti-woke bill, now the anti-woke act, and it pretty much has outlawed critical race theory, which was not being taught in Florida schools in the first place, and has allowed the Florida Board of Education to add some things to their civics class, their social studies class. It is just really deeply, deeply offensive. It's offensive. Again, look at the screen. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Let me pull it up full screen. So now Florida teachers have to teach Florida students that the enslaved African people, developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. In other words, Florida teachers will teach Florida children that slavery benefited our ancestors. Slavery benefited our ancestors, that they learned job skills. There is so much wrong with that on so many different levels. Let's start with the most obvious. We're talking about chattel slavery. We're talking about a system of slavery more brutal than any system of slavery in human history. Because our ancestors were enslaved because of their race. They were also property. They themselves were property under the law. I did my family's background search a few years ago. And the first part of the search, I had to go through the Census Bureau records and find the census reports for my family, and I was able to get back, but so far. Then I had to go to the county that my family is from. And the genealogy people told me, they said, Mr. Corbett, now when you do this phase of the search, we need to warn you. First of all, when you do your search, you're going to have to look through business records. Business records. In other words, you're going to have to look for bills of sales, wills, those kinds of documents to find your family. Because your family under the law during slavery was chattel or property, like a cow, a mule, or a dog, or a horse and buggy, clothes, whatever. Property, not humans, property. So therefore, they had no rights, none. They absolutely had no rights. One author said that under chattel slavery, enslaved Black people under the law was the property of the plantation owner, including the enslaved person's mind, soul, spirit, every part of him or her. And you tell me, you got the nerve to tell me, Ron Desatanic, you got the nerve to tell us African-American people that our forefathers benefited from that? You are sick. And every single one of the people who approve this, you all are sick people. You are cruel, sick, racist, white supremacist people. I'm not going to hold back tonight, you all. I'm going to be honest. Cruel, cruel, cruel. It is demonic to say that anyone who was owned by other people under the law in a system that was so brutal, rapes, whips, murders, molestation, child rape, child abuse, everything that you can think of, horrible and evil, they did to our folks. And he has the nerve, him in the Florida legislature has the nerve, in the Board of Education there in Florida has the nerve to tell us that our family members benefited from that. But for the grace of God, our family survived that, not benefited from it. By God's grace, we survived it. And because we are a strong people, we are a resilient people, and they couldn't break us. And now to teach Black kids and white kids that slavery benefited Black people? Children are actually going to be taught that, you all. Children will literally, I just showed you looking at it. Teachers must now teach that. that some enslaved black folks benefited from slavery. That's cruel. That's evil. That's demonic. It's satanic. It's a lie. It's repugnant. It's reprehensible. All that you can think of, it's evil. If you are a Christian person, you have read the story of how the Egyptians enslaved the Israelites, the Hebrews, for 400 years. And there is nothing in the scriptures, if we want to look at Israel as an example, that indicates nothing happened to them was beneficial to them. It destroyed them so much. It was such a destructive practice on the Israelites that God had to allow all the adults to die, and only the children who were under 20 years old, who had not been so affected by slavery, did he allow to live. And the system, the American system of slavery, was 100 times worse than that. My daughter Chloe is going to do a video soon in response to Candace Owens, who said a bunch of dumb stuff about slavery in a video that Candace did a year ago. Chloe is going to respond to that video, and you'll find out how awful. You'll get some gleamings of how awful chattel slavery was. I cannot really describe it. The truth has never been told, actually. But our people suffered immensely under chattel slavery, and none of them benefited. None of them picked up any skills that they benefited from, because all they did was do work in the fields. All they were farm hands. And besides, our people already knew how to grow stuff and produce stuff. Our folks already had skills. We didn't have to come here and go through slavery for 256 years to pick up some skill. Who does he think he's talking about? The man's heart is depraved. He's an evil person. Ron Desatanic is an evil person. And what he's trying to do, what he hopes, what he really desires, is to do what he did to Florida around the country. We can never let that happen. We can never let that happen. None of those people, none of them, Trump, Desantis, Tim Scott, the former South Carolina governor, Haley, whatever her name is, the man from Arkansas, I can't think of his name right now. None of them should be entrusted with the White House because they're anti-black. The young Indian dude, Vivek something, none of them. They are a threat to black folks. If you don't see it now, you are willfully blind. You're willfully blind. And let me tell you something. I used to be a Republican. I came out of the Republican Party over 20 years ago because I could not embrace the white supremacy in the party. I was a Republican because I am a committed Christian, and I strongly oppose things like abortion. I'm a pro-life person. I'm also traditional marriage. So I oppose certain things that the Democrats tend to embrace, which is why I'm not a Democrat today either. I'm neither. I'm an independent. But I'm telling you, the Republican Party today, that stuff has always been there. It was there when I was in the Republican Party, which is why I was sort of an outcast type. I was like Colin Powell. Every opportunity I got to say something to one of them, I was rebuking them and correcting them and so on, because I knew then they were racist. And listen, there are racists in the Democrat Party too. Let's be upfront about this. There are white supremacists in the Democrat Party as well. What the GOP is doing now, the GOP is operating in fear of the browning of this nation. The the Republican Party is operating in fear. It is afraid that this nation is being overtaken by black and brown people, financed by Jewish people. They are fear of being replaced. They are fear that folks are coming from the southern border and are going to take over America. That's what Trump taps into. That's what he manipulates, and that's the indoctrination that he is putting out there. And speaking of indoctrination, Ron Desatanic, he talks a lot about, we're not going to let the woke folk come here and indoctrinate our children. And that's exactly what he's doing with this crap about black folks benefited from slavery. Just a little bit of study in history will show you that African American people brought no benefit out of slavery. None. Our people, when slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment, African American people left with nothing, no benefit, none whatsoever. What they're trying to do is trying to basically say that slavery was not all that bad. And this push for reparations is really, really an injustice on white America, because we really benefited these people. We helped them become Christians. We gave them job skills. We helped them become civilized. It's all that crap wrapped up in this type of stuff. Let's just be honest about what we're dealing with here. And any black person who supports the GOP, you are part of the problem. You are part of the problem. You should be ashamed of yourself to support a party that is teaching our children that our ancestors benefited from slavery. And what Ron Desatanic want to do in his entourage is, again, they want him to become president so that he can do in the country what he did to Florida. And they're also hoping that education boards across the nation adopt similar language. So if you live in a GOP-controlled state, you need to get active so that your children and your grandchildren and great-grandchildren will never be taught this garbage. I'm telling you, if I was living in Florida, I would move. There's no way, especially if I had children who was coming through middle school, there is no way in the world I would allow my kids to hear that. I at least would take them out of public school. We're going to homeschool you. We're going to send you to a private school. You're not going to be indoctrinated the way the Florida legislature, the Florida Board of Education and the education system is trying to indoctrinate you. We're not going to let that happen. We would be irresponsible as parents. Okay? Now, a lot of the parents there in Florida, they're in an uproar about what they call the indoctrination by the LGBTQ plus community. They don't want their kids to be taught this or that about lesbianism, homosexuality, transgenderism, etc. Well, black folk need to feel the same way about this here. Black folks need to have the attitude, you will not teach our children that. And every black Floridian should rise up and stand against this and fight this and get this changed. Think about what this does to young white kids. Think about it. And remember, They outlawed CRT because, how did they say it? They didn't want little white children to feel bad when they heard the truth about slavery. Yet, they're telling black kids that their ancestors benefited from a system of slavery that was completely, totally demonic. And I use that word specifically. So they don't care how this garbage, this indoctrination will affect our children. Imagine your child coming home and asking you, Mom, Dad, did our ancestors benefit from slavery? Well, that's what the teacher told me today, that they picked up job skills that became a personal benefit to them. Here it is again. Read it yourself. There it is. I got to highlight it for you. There it is. That's what teachers are mandated to teach. They must teach kids this. And so imagine you trying to explain to your little one that your teacher's wrong, sweetheart. Our people did not benefit from slavery. Just the opposite. Slavery did severe damage to our people. And it's why me and your father or mother are involved in the reparations movement. And that's another thing. They're trying their best to put everything they can out there as a reason why reparations are an injustice to white America. We can't let this stand. This is one of those moments, you Floridians especially, where you need to stand against this, and the rest of us need to stop the spread of this garbage. You need to get active. You remember Trump talking about stop the steal? We need to stop the spread of this garbage that Ron Desatanic is trying to spread across this country. We, African Americans, we got to rise up against this. We can't let them tell this lie. We cannot let them indoctrinate our children like this. We cannot do it. We cannot let them indoctrinate this is pure, unadulterated indoctrination. The very thing they said that CRT attempts to do to little white children, he's doing that very thing to black kids and white kids. I mean, think about white kids hearing that. And they go home and ask their parents. Also, slavery wasn't that bad, Mom, because we learned today that black people who were enslaved, they learned job skills, and they actually benefited from slavery. We actually did a good thing for them. Can you see the harm in this? The potential injury of this? Ron Desatanic needs to be stopped. That should go no further than Florida, and Florida should correct this. Let me see your comments. Sean Breezy, I do not like that man. Amen to that. Amen to that. I do not either. It seems like he is in competition to be more racist. That's precisely what he's doing. But I think it's more than just being in competition. That is what he's doing, because he knows the GOP wants that. The GOP wants to know that whoever they support will be as racist and mean and ugly as possible because they're in fear of losing this country. So all these candidates, including Tim Scott, are trying to out-racist the other one. And Trump has been the standard. So they got to out Trump. They got to out racist Trump. And that is saying a lot because dude has decades of racist behavior. Decades. So Ron DeSantis is doing his best. He's doing his best. But this, by far, has been the most cruel, insensitive, demonic, satanic thing that he has done. And I agree with the NAACP. Stay out of Florida. Stay out of Florida. Bishop Steve Campbell says crazy stuff in Florida, to say the least. To say the least. The entire Republican Party is evil. I used to be a Republican. Well, here's another brother who also was a Republican like I was. I was once a member of the Republican Party. But I tell everybody, I was like Colin Powell. Every opportunity I got, I called the Republican Party out. I rebuked it because I knew many of the folks in the Republican Party were racist. It's just that I am a strong pro-life person. But even when you talk pro-life, most of those GOP folks, they aren't really pro-life. They just use the pro-life issue to promote their racist garbage under the cover of being pro-life. They're not really pro-life. How can you say you're pro-life when you're okay with the disproportionate death rate of black women who die while giving birth, or the disproportionate infant mortality rate in the black community, and you do nothing? In fact, some of the white doctors are the reason for that. How can you be pro-life when you say nothing about innocent black people being killed by police officers? You're not really pro-life. You're not really pro-life. Again, it is just a convenient issue that they use to promote white supremacy. Now that abortion has been struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court, now they got a couple of other boogeymen. CRT, woke, transgenderism, all of that they use to cover their anti-blackness, because that's the real issue. The real issue is their anti-blackness. They want to do everything possible to try to keep African Americans in a certain place. I told you, I'm not gonna hold back. I'm not gonna bite my tongue. Bishop Steve Campbell says, yes, we've read his comment. Sean Breezy says, they're trying to take us back to Jim Crow. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. The way I heard somebody said that I agree with, they're trying to implement James Crow Esquire. In other words, not go back to the sheets and the burning crosses and all of that, but wearing suits and using the boardroom, using the police departments, using the healthcare system, using the education system to yet keep black folks in a certain position. So they got smarter about it, but the goal is the same thing. It's anti-black. And this right here, this law right here that requires teachers to tell little black kids and little white kids that slavery benefited blacks, that takes the cake. We got to stand against this. All right. I'm not going to hold you long tonight. I appreciate you all getting up here with me. Please share this video. If you're watching through YouTube, like the video. And most importantly, fight this. Fight this. If you don't live in Florida, do everything you can to keep this from coming to your state. Because, I used to be a teacher. Let me tell you why I say this. The companies out there that write textbooks, they typically follow the states that have the most students. In other words, they don't write a textbook for each state. They typically write one textbook for the biggest states and then sort of modify that textbook for different states. So if Florida and states like Texas and California can get something in, especially Texas and Florida can get something in their textbooks, it is very likely that it will end up in textbooks across the country. And where I live here in Texas, they're trying to do the very, very same thing. They tried it this last, not the last, but the legislative, the legislature before this one tried to get some crazy stuff into the curriculum, but we fought it and it didn't work. But they're going to keep trying. I know they're going to keep trying. And remember this: most states are GOP-controlled states right now. Most states are GOP. The Democrats don't control the majority of states. The GOP control majority of the states. They're going to quietly try to get into their textbooks the same stuff right here. You got to fight against it in your state. Get engaged. Find out how your Board of Education works, your local Board of Education and your state Board of Education. Go to meetings. Go to meetings. Join your board, not your Board of Education, but join, if you can, run for office. Try to get on the Board of Education, all right? And be very active in board meetings. Don't just sit home. Especially if you got kids involved, my God, you need to be involved. Your voice needs to be heard, because if you don't, your kids are going to be taught this crazy mess right here. So let this fire you up. Let this cause you to get active. I remember I got active. I wrote a book, Education and Justice. I was a teacher for a short period, and I saw inside how the education system does our children. And I tell you right now, if I was a teacher in Florida, I would not teach that garbage. I would not. No, fire me. Fire me. I'm not teaching that. And I suspect there are many black, and even I heard some white teachers say that they're not going to abide by and comply with that. All right? So anyway, I just had to let off that steam. I have been on fire about this since the announcement was made last Wednesday. I've been intending to make a video, but I've been very busy. But that's my perspective. Ron Desantis, his new name is Ron Desatanic. The dude has a cruel, evil heart. And he is using the black community as a scapegoat to try to get to the White House. We got to stop him. We got to get involved. We got to vote. He is as bad as Trump, if not worse. But I guess the difference is, I think it was The Atlantic that said he is Trump without the jokes. And I agree with that. The guy is, he's a mean-spirited dude, right? I mean, his heart is just, it seems to be just cruel, mean-spirited. Or he's trying to just look like Trump. You know how Trump would get out there on the campaign trail? So maybe he's just trying to do that so that he looks tough. Isn't it a sad state? Isn't it a sad situation when rank and file GOP Republican folks are so full of fear and racism that they will not vote for anyone who's not super duper racist? Isn't that sad? That's the state of the Republican Party right now. Real sad. Well, anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I really appreciate you all participating. Like, share, comment, continue to keep commenting. Please like the video, share the video. And most importantly, as I said before, let's stop Ron Desatanic. That garbage cannot come any further than Florida. We got to keep it in Florida. All right? I'm gone. Thank you all for spending this time with me. Let's get the word out. Peace.